Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. We are here. It's the holiday edition. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everyone. As Sip and I are on the verge of heading out to New York. Robin not with us. He's with family in Iowa, but will be joining us in New York. So we leave Wednesday night. We're taping here Monday for you before we head to the Big Apple, Mr.
What
Sipple.
time's our flight?
Well, we leave Wednesday night at 6:30, which is not a big deal for me because, by 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, Christmas Day, the hay's in the barn. I'd say 95% of people are Christmas Eve people anyway.
So we got to be at the airport at 5.
Yeah, 5-ish. So
we're making our plans on the air.
We're doing that all for you. But all right, before we get into the opening headlines here for the Pinstripe Bowl, this show and our title sponsor is StayHome.Care. They've been with us for the entire football season. They are a first-class operation organization. They are there to help you with the loved ones in your life. Simple things like grocery shopping, picking up prescriptions, getting a ride to a doctor's appointment, cooking, cleaning. They do it all, and it's never too early to call them to learn about what they offer. You might have someone in your life that needs their assistance. Call them at 402-205-2233. That's 402-205-2233. That's StayHome.Care. They're there for you to help the loved ones in your life. Thanks again to StayHome.Care to being our title sponsor of the Husker Online Show. But let's get into the opening headlines of this bowl game because, the transfer portal has kind of dominated the discussion this month for us too. I mean, it's what we've probably spent a better part of December working on, but there is a game this week. And, with that said, Nebraska has done a really good job in the weeks ahead of this game, adding to their roster. They've lost players. They've added good players, though, Sip, when you look at how this month of December has turned out for Nebraska.
Yeah, it's been an interesting month. This is the way it is all over the country, I imagine, where not only journalists, but coaches, their attention's kind of all over the place. Now, I would say this, the coach has got to pay way closer attention to this game than we do. Sean, it's bowl week. I haven't been able to say that since 2016. It's bowl week.
I was 36 years old back then. If you want to put that in perspective, I was a much younger version of this guy right here. You were in your 40s probably 8 years ago, weren't you?
I was.
Jeez.
Yeah, or I was just on the verge of 50. But anyway, I think Nebraska, if you look at their haul, it's good. There's one part, though, that's sort of that they haven't come through on, and that's offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line, they need probably 2 starting level players. Obviously, there's a few other pieces they're waiting on, but I think they've addressed it. And the strategy here in December for Matt Rule and the staff, it's a very NFL-like strategy. I mean, you kind of shoot for your big free agents, then you bring in kind of value additions. And, I think the big free agents in this class for Nebraska are Williams Nwaneri, the edge rusher, Dasan McCullough, another versatile athlete for the 3-3-5 out of Oklahoma, and Isaiah Hunter. I mean, I think those three players have kind of been their priority additions. And look, Jack McAllister, Kevin Galick are priorities at long snapper and punter, but you didn't have to pay a lot of money. But I think when you look at this class, there's 3 names they've put a lot of money on, and those are the 3.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll be really surprised if Williams Nwaneri and Dasan McCullough aren't in the starting lineup next year. For the game against Cincinnati.
And Isaiah Hunter, too.
For sure. Yeah, I was just sticking on defense for now. Oh, yeah, and Isaiah Hunter, I'd be shocked if he's not. All 3 of those guys. You're right, Sean. Those guys, I mean, particularly McCullough, and I guess particularly Nwaneri, I guess. I said it the other day. Those are damn guys. And that is when you turn on the film of those guys, you're like, oh, damn. I mean, I watched McCullough last night, and the first play on his highlight film is him kind of rushing the passer, but then dropping off. The guy throws a ball, and he somehow goes up and snatches it, and then looks really good running the ball. McCullough's kind of a smaller version of Nwaneri. Nwaneri, what do they list him as? 6'5", 6'6", 265. McCullough is 6'5", like 235.
Oh, and he can play safety, linebacker, edge rusher.
Yeah. And he's long. They're both really long-armed, long. They cover a lot of ground. They're Oh, God, Sean. I mean, they are really good-looking players. And you're right. Isaiah Hunter, I mean, they went and got him to start. Now, he's got 3 years left, though. That's the beauty of Isaiah Hunter. He's got 3 years to develop at Nebraska, more than he already has, which is 40 catches for 578 yards at Cal and 5 touchdowns. What he said is, I want to score more touchdowns. I got to keep my feet. He said, I'd have more touchdowns if I would have kept my feet. And he wants to come here and learn how to keep his feet better. And he also wants to play in front of huge crowds, he said. He'd watch, on social media, these Nebraska games, and he'd say, I imagine myself scoring touchdowns in front of all those people. And so, Sean, you're right. Those are the value guys.
Well, and we say this all the time. The fan support and the attendance, it still is arguably the number one selling factor. Because when you come here and see it and you realize, man, this team hasn't won in a long time, and look at these crowds, look at the support.
I mean, you're right.
I mean, if that stadium was empty, it wouldn't sell.
There's not much to sell.
But
I shouldn't say that. There's still a lot to sell.
But just the support, the players understand, like, people are still engaged here. The opportunities there. And yeah, these are great. And then, they've added what I would call value additions to this class too. Justin Rhett was a high profile recruit.
He was
kind of like an MJ Sherman type player addition, high profile, but didn't work out at Georgia. Can they make him work out as a corner here for Nebraska?
Or a safety, Sean?
Safety or corner, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's listed as a corner in high school, but he played safety at Georgia. And as every time we ask Nebraska coaches where they play, they always say they're versatile. They play everywhere. So,
and who's that guy we quoted from Dog's headquarters?
Jake Rowe.
Jake Rowe envisions him as a free safety.
So free safety guy in the 3-3-5. They get a backup quarterback, Marcos Davila from Purdue.
Yep.
Gabe Moore, a D lineman out of Mississippi State, another value addition in my opinion. Then Jalen George, an FCS productive player, first team all conference. But again, you're not breaking the bank for any of these players. I think you had to break the bank for 3, and they're definitely going to try to get probably 3 more of those kinds of guys.
It's a really good read, Sean.
You can't break. I mean, but there are teams like Missouri and Texas Tech, Ole Miss, even they break the bank on every guy, and I just don't know how sustainable that is.
It's as sustainable as the donors allow it to be.
What happens though is if a guy doesn't produce in that 1 year, they cut him loose the next year. It's it's a volatile market.
Really volatile.
You can't pay that much if they don't play.
Hard to build a program that way too. We're not in a program building era right now. I know Matt's trying to do that, and there's programs that try to do it at different levels than others. But yeah, I think you've assessed this well. I really like it. When you talk about those value additions, the 2 guys I really like are Gallick and Jack McAllister.
The special teams guys.
Yeah, they went and identified guys that played at a high level at Gallick at New Hampshire. You've mentioned his grade, which was tremendous. His long snapping grade, 89.1, I think it was. McAllister's a 3-year starter at Washington. He was a 3-year starter. Now they changed their punting scheme. They're going to a rollout Aussie punting scheme. He's a pocket punter. But his numbers were good, 37.7 net, which is not exactly where you want it, but it's not bad. 42.3 yards a punt. And again, 3-year starter. I mean, they brought in a veteran guy.
Yeah, and I would imagine on both these players, there wasn't a huge market. Like McAllister didn't take any other visits, and I don't know how many teams were looking for long snappers in December in the portal. I mean, but Nebraska, it was a huge priority here because the long snapper position was very costly for Nebraska this year.
Absolutely. It's hard to tell sometimes. You get asked this a lot. Who else did he consider? Who else did Jack McAllister consider? Who else did Kevin Gallick consider? Who else did anybody consider? Sometimes it's hard to know. McAllister told me, now I talked to him, he said there was a lot of interest, but he only made 1 visit.
And there's some guys on social media that will kind of paint a better picture of what their interest is, but it's not real. The good players don't really tweet their offers. Some do to get attention, But again, I've seen a lot of guys tweet their offers that they're still sitting there. And so you don't really know what's real and what's not. But anyway, a big month for Nebraska, and the coaches weren't even on the road. They had to do all this in Lincoln, 22 official visitors in December.
From the portal. 22 portal visitors, which is in line with what Dana Holgorsen said at the outset. He said, Sean, between 20 and 30.
And that was 22 visitors in around 11 or 10 days. And there's still 18 more days in January that they can host visitors. So
so this isn't going away. That's what I want to emphasize to people.
It's not over. Like, there's 18 more visit days before classes begin.
See, you could still get an offensive lineman in January.
Yeah. And there's going to be more players that go in that you don't know about after these playoff games and bowl games. But
Sean, we got a lot of coverage to do in January.
It's not stopping.
Good.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk offensive storylines for Nebraska heading out to the Pinstripe Bowl. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, as we're talking offensive storylines heading in the Pinstripe Bowl. But before we get to that, this segment brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Are workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to Ellerbrock-Norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thank you to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Also, again, thanks to our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are there for the loved ones in your life to help you with all the things you need assistance with. Give them a call at 402-205-2233. All right, let's get into the offensive storylines. And I just thought this would be the easiest thing to do. Let's pull up the offensive depth chart on the screen here.
Okay.
And it kind of sizes up some of the changes that we've seen. And, some of the big things that have happened for Nebraska. Nate Borgacher, gone off the team, going to A&M next year. Isaiah Naor has opted out of the bowl game just to not return to practice after the game at Iowa, where he dropped the pass that could possibly won the game for Nebraska. So we won't see Isaiah Naor, which is disappointing. When a guy gets
there
paid,
we go.
Here you go. But yeah, when you pay a guy like Naor a lot of money to come here for 1 year and just kind of taps it out. And Rule's very good about how he says that publicly, but come on.
He smoothed it over very well.
Dante Dowell, not on the depth chart. He is gone.
That's the biggest one.
But Ramir Johnson, the New York Harlem native, is healthy and ready to go with Emmett. So you've got two good backs. Jalen Gramstad will go into the bowl game as the number 2 quarterback for Nebraska.
I think of everything you just covered, the most interesting storyline besides Dana Holgorsen, and I'll get to that, is the running backs. Emmett Johnson now gets I'm going to say 4 straight start. Is that right? Emmett Johnson, he is now your premier back. The definitive premier back for Nebraska is Emmett Johnson. Pretty much, I think he's really benefited from Dana Holgorsen. Dana Holgorsen likes backs who can do it all: catch, run, and protect. He doesn't want backs who can only do 1 or 2 of those things. He wants backs that can do all 3. Ramir would be a gigantic story if he's able to close his career in Harlem at the Pinstripe Bowl in a big way. That'd be great. And Quentin Ives, from right there too. So that running back room is really interesting going into this. Also, we should mention Harburg at tight end. Harburg playing tight end all month. Wouldn't it be interesting if Harburg catches a ball down the seam for about 30 yards?
Yeah, and I think that's why they were okay with Borgacher moving on. The market that he got on the open market, he was getting paid. There's so few tight ends on the transfer market. He got paid a lot of money. And for Nebraska,
he got 9 catches.
And for Nebraska,
this year,
where their room is at right now, it didn't make sense paying him maybe double, triple what he's making. And for a guy that was a true, and you wish him well because he did his job here and maximize his opportunities at Nebraska.
A guy that we don't mention enough in that conversation is Luke Lindenmeyer. They like him.
He's a good role player, does his job, but yeah, that room, how that turns out, and no Micah Mazuka.
Yeah, Mazuka had played valuable minutes for Nebraska on the left side of the line, both guard and tackle. When they shifted him to tackle, he played well, and he played with a bum shoulder. So give him a lot of credit. Now, as far as Holgorsen goes, we'll get a better idea of the Dana Holgorsen. A better idea of the Dana Holgorsen offense, because he has all month, and it's not that it's going to be a different offense per se. It's just going to get narrowed down more. I mean, that's the theme that you hear. The two things that you hear attached to that conversation are this. He's just narrowed down what they were doing narrowed it down a lot. And he's very personnel driven. His offense going forward will be determined by which players are your best players.
Well, and he's really quick to point out, he's like, I don't just run the air raid, and
he doesn't run the air raid.
And big picture in my mind, I think Dana Holgorsen, if this works out well here for a few years, he would like to be an offensive coordinator, maybe in the NFL.
Is that
like
right?
I've heard that, like that NFL OC, that type. Look at some of these guys in the NFL right now and what they're doing.
That
like
makes sense.
Cliff Kingsbury and so I think in his mind that would be, if he ever moved up the ladder. I don't know, being a head coach, sure, the right opportunities there, but I think he wants to show that he's a versatile offensive coach that can.
That's a good point. And his offense, the way he's running it now, would work in the NFL. I mean, it would. So I think Holgorsen is maybe the most interesting storyline for Nebraska. And I also think Holgorsen might be the biggest reason for optimism for this program in 2025. I really believe that.
Because you've got a guy that can push the right buttons, do the right things. And you saw that. I mean, even in the Iowa game, he put them in positions to win the game.
Yeah.
And they put drives together. They had for 3 quarters, they played pretty good offense against a defense that doesn't give up much. They just couldn't finish in the red zone.
Right. And I give him a lot of grace in this conversation, because I just go back to, he didn't come here expecting to be in that role, wearing that headset, holding a play sheet. When he came here in early November, he didn't expect this. It was, Matt wanted something from him that he probably wasn't necessarily expecting, but Matt sold it, and he said, let's do it. But it's been an enormous challenge. He just got here. He was named to that position on November 11th. So less than 2 months
ago.
If
not for them sharing the same agent, something like this just doesn't happen that easily.
Probably not. Yeah, you're right.
But that relationship, the offense should have enough to put it together and have a chance to win this game. I think that's just the reality. When you look at what this looks like for Nebraska, they've got enough to win it, even without Borkature, without Mazuka, without Dowell. Like Dowell leaving too, Matt Rule's comments are very interesting on that.
Dowell, he was a leading rusher. He had 12 touchdowns. What happened with Dowell clearly is Kentucky, where you ended up, came with a much bigger number than Nebraska. Am I wrong? They come with a much bigger number than Nebraska.
Probably double.
Pay. Yeah.
They and that's the portal in a nutshell. Somebody can come in and just buy you.
I'm not going out on a limb. If you listen to Rule, that's the conclusion you draw.
I don't think Dante in his heart of hearts probably wanted to leave Nebraska.
Matt said that.
But other people in his camp and people probably pulled him that direction.
Or if the number's so big, you just can't say no, even if it's not exactly what Matt said the words, Rule. He liked it here. Dowell liked it here. So he wasn't looking to leave.
And people forget how far he came. When he came in the spring, he was nowhere near the discussion yet. It took him a while to kind of get up there.
You're so right. At the beginning of the spring, I remember thinking he might not play.
Like, and he wasn't used to the, that he rose quickly though. But at the start of spring ball, the internal chatter we had from people were like, yeah, he's got to need a year, and he came quick and got that.
Yeah, he's really an interesting player to me, Sean, because I kept saying it. I've said it so much, but it's true. He's so explosive. I mean, he has a.
This doesn't make people miss very well.
That's the issue. He's an interesting player because I think he could get really good. And my guess is that's what Kentucky saw, is that they see he's still developing. Now, some people would say you don't develop vision. You have it or you don't. So that's what we're going to find out. Can he develop better vision, seeing holes, making guys miss better? If he can, then he's going to run for 1,000 yards because he ran for 612 here. He ran for 612 this year, Sean.
It's really hard to be 1,000-yard back in the SEC and the Big Ten. Really hard.
Good point.
You've got to be a pro.
Yeah.
And is he a pro? Probably.
He's got pro physical attributes. He does.
But if you're 1,000-yard back in these two leagues, you're a pro.
Yeah, maybe thousands. That might be a little
700-800 maybe.
That might be a little optimistic.
All right.
Sean, no, he's got 2 years to go.
Well, most running backs don't want to be in college for 4, though.
That's true.
I mean, if you're a good running back, you're gone. I mean, because your shelf life in the league, you're lucky to make it to 28 or 30. All right, when we come back, let's talk defensive storylines heading out to the Pinstripe Bowl. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. We're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Husker Online Show, again, brought to you by a title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you to help the loved ones in your life. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn all about the services they can do for you. Simple things like grocery shopping, picking up prescriptions, giving a ride to a doctor's appointment. They do it all. Call them, again, at 402-205-2233. We're also brought to you by Vintage Custom Homes. It's that time of year. You're thinking about the spring, the summer. What kind of new construction projects could you look at doing to your house? And Vintage Custom Homes, not only are they an elite home builder, not just in the Omaha area, but all across Nebraska. They do high-end remodels. They'll build a barn dominium. They do it all. And this is first-class, high-level work here. And don't take my word for it. Look at the pictures. Look at some of the jobs they've done. So whether it's building a new home, whether it's a remodel, whatever you're looking to do, Vintage Custom Homes has the vendors and the experience to get the job done for you. Check them out on their website at vintagecustomhomesne.com. That's vintagecustomhomesne.com. Thanks again to Vintage Custom Homes for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the defensive depth chart here for the game, because that is the side of the ball that has really taken a hit for Nebraska. And I think the X factor is how many snaps will Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher give Nebraska? Because they're going to play. We know that. But I don't anticipate a full workload for these guys. And if that's the case, if they play, let's say 60% of the snaps, 55% of the snaps, is there enough up front with Keona Davis, Elijah Judy, Cam Lenhart, Riley Van Poppel to win this game?
There's enough. If those guys, Nash and Ty, can give you 60% of the snaps, those guys that you name can pick up the slack. Those are good players. It's really nice. I like the fact that Cam Lenhart, I thought maybe he was portal bound. Just the feel I had, because he didn't play as much as you probably would have thought this year, right? I like the fact it looks like that he's still strong in the program, because I think Lenhart can be a very good player and maybe a great player. I think Van Poppel can be a very good player, maybe a great player. Judy is experienced. Keona Davis, Judy can play. Judy had his moments this year. Davis, Keona, I mean, that he could become a Ty Robinson. He's different. He's different than Ty, because he'll never be Sean. Keona Davis will never get to 310. You don't want, his body's not like that. You want Davis to get to about 280, and he's listed 255. He's probably, I imagine he's a little bigger than that, but he's not. I don't want to compare him to Ty Robinson because he doesn't have that size, but he could be very impactful. Keona Davis, Sean, that was gigantic that they retained him. gigantic.
Well, yeah, and I've had people within the program tell me that because they didn't have him for this game, it'd be pretty dire.
Mm-hmm. So they got. I believe they have enough. What I really will be interested in, Sean, if that game in the fourth quarter is going into the fourth quarter is tied, will Robinson and Nash really just say, "No, I'm not playing"? Really?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I don't think they have it in them to do that.
No, because there is something said to be leaving the field of the trophy. I don't care what it is. Like you want to leave as a winner.
Right.
There's not been a team at Nebraska that's left a season a winner in their final game.
I could be wrong, and I understand the other side of this discussion. I really do. But if that game is tied in the fourth quarter, I can't believe Nash and Ty. They don't seem like the type of guy that would just say, I'll see how this turns out.
The portal, though, in general, it almost freaks you out to see like James Williams getting big money to go to Florida State.
I don't know what to say about that. I mean,
Princewell Umanyalan getting big money to go to Ole Miss, who didn't do much this year.
No, it's just
now Jabari Butler got big bucks to go. He deserved that. Go to L. But some of these guys that have left, it's almost crazy when you see like, wow,
what Umanyalan.
What the hell was that? Jeez,
I tried.
Umanyalan. What the hell was that?
Princewell? What Princewell and James Williams, they benefit from being. That's why I struggle with that. So Princewell and James Williams are at a premium position.
Williams, good job.
Yeah, James Williams.
That's a good one, easy one for you.
Yeah, it's premium. It's just that's it. That's what that is. That's why they get big money. And same with Jamari Butler, but Jamari Butler is proven. I mean, he's proven. He's played at a high level. All he got to do is show the Ohio State tape where he.
Yeah, because look what Tennessee did to Ohio State. Nothing. And look what Jamari Butler did to that same old line.
I know.
That actually got in that playoff game. Watching what Tennessee could not do to, I mean, like Nebraska's defense was much better than Tennessee's. It wasn't even close. But again, my old theory, playing in Columbus at night is a different deal.
It is. In Ohio State, I don't know. It's kind of an indictment on the Ohio State coaching staff that when they play down to people a little bit, I mean, they played down to Michigan. They played down to Nebraska. Then you see them against Tennessee, and they were so crisp and so sharp. Anyway, what else on the defense?
Well, I think they're okay at linebacker. I think when you look at linebacker,
of course, yeah,
they've got enough at linebacker right now.
They lost Bayer. That's it, right?
Yeah, and Umanyalan.
Kind of a linebacker. So you got Bullock, you got Javin Wright, you have MJ Sherman. You don't know. You're fine. You got McGahee, you got Shavers. No, they're fine.
In the secondary too, they have enough. I mean, Tommy Hill has been out for the whole season essentially. Fine. So yeah, I think this defense, as long as Nash and Ty can give them enough quality work,
they will.
It's set up for Nebraska's defense to have a good day, but they need those two guys to, go 35, 40 snaps. Yep. And this will probably be about
100%.
This is going to be about a 65 snap game.
Yeah. Get 40 out of them. And then if the game's close, they'll go in.
All right. When we come back, Abby Barmore will join us. She's back earlier than she probably wanted to be from Louisville, but she's here for the mailbag as we'll take questions from Abby next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Abby Barmore joining us here for the mailbag. But before we get to that, again, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Check them out on their website. Give them a call, 402-205-2233 to learn all about their services. We're also brought to you by Future Fans. And if you're not familiar with Future Fans, look, teaching the game of football to children is important. We want to continue to build fans for the game of football. And what Future Fans is it's a fun book program where you teach young kids about the game of football, how to follow it, how the game works. And I've got the Future Fans book at my house. My daughter Carly loved it. It's for kids ages 4 to 8, just to teach them about the game and understand what they're doing. And, if you're not familiar with Future Fans, they've got a great promo and special to try it out. Go online and you can get it for $49.99. It makes a great gift. Use the promo code Huskers and you'll get 10% off your order. That's promo code Huskers for the Future Fans Football book. And there's a lot of games inside that box that you kind of incorporate with the book. And of course, Sipple, if you can imagine, Carly went right for the games.
Yeah, you might want to read that too, Sean.
I mean, read it to you in the press box. After all these years, you might learn the game.
All right.
Our friends Michael Severe and Damon Benning would probably tell us we need to read those books.
I don't need that book.
All right. Let's get into the mailbag, Abby.
Okay, our first one. Which position group does Nebraska need more of in the portal?
O-lineman. I think that is clearly they need starting level O-lineman, probably 2. And you know what? That's like finding a unicorn. And guess what? Buying a unicorn's not cheap.
No. What happened to the Washington State?
Well, he's still on the board. So as of show taping time, he's still on the board.
Don't try his name. He's a starter, multi-year starter at Washington State. I've been told he's a right tackle. He's not a left. He's a right tackle for some reason. I don't know why you just can't shift him.
Well, and the X factor remains like Teddy Prohaska, Turner Corcoran. Can one of those guys rise back up to their old self? And
you got Gunner.
And you have Gunner. That's what I'm saying, Gunner. And those, so you have 3 players returning in the program that have started left or right, but 2 coming off basically back-to-back injury type years.
Keegan Trost was a guy that people were paying attention to. Keegan Trost was going to get slid into guard probably. I don't think he was a starting tackle in the Big Ten.
And I never looked at him as like a guy they had to get.
Ended up at Missouri. I don't know who else. This might be a January discussion, right?
There's going to be more from the FCS ranks, the other bowl games. But yeah, the true portal for regular teams closes on the 28th.
Okay. But you could snare a tackle in January.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Is that what they need? Do they need a tackle? Is that their top priority?
It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, they have enough guards.
What about running back? So what you have is Emmett Johnson,
Jamarian Parker,
Quentin Connor
Ives.
Booth, Quentin Ives,
Makai Nelson Butler.
Makai Nelson. That's it right there. Is that enough?
Again, though, you have to find someone that you think or know either wants to compete with those guys or is already better.
There's that. And then I think the wild card in that discussion is Ives, whom they like. I mean, Rule likes Ives a lot. Now he had 5 carries for 5 yards this year. They must see something in practice.
The thing still, though, and you and I both are on the same page on this. We've covered enough running backs in our long careers that generally, the first week.
Usually.
Like Brandon Jackson. I watched him as a freshman. I'm like, yeah, he's going to play.
Usually.
I don't know of too many people, maybe Divino Zigbo you could use as an example.
That's an example.
He flashed, though, as a freshman. He flashed. He made plays young. Usually right away, they have that natural cut, and you're like, yep, he can play.
Yeah.
You can't teach that natural cut. Like I watched Joe Mixon for the Houston Texans. He's going to get stuff from the backfield. He had that cut, was able to get 2 yards. I mean,
no, you're right.
You can't teach that.
No, you can't. Usually, a running back right away if it's going to work out. But sometimes there's always exceptions to the rules, Sean.
Next question.
Okay. How confident are you that Nebraska's staff is set for 2025, or will there be more changes?
Ooh, there's a question.
That's a good question. Here's the thing. I know there's a lot of people that ask about Satterfield or even Ed Foley, but they are under contract for a whole nother year, regardless. So sure, they could, if they didn't feel like they were going to get extended long-term, they could always try to find another opportunity. But with the new rules, those guys can still be here because they're going to get paid by Nebraska no matter what.
They could be shifted down a notch on the staff.
But Satterfield still is going to pay $1.4 million.
I know that's an odd. The Satterfield conversation is odd because he goes from an offensive coordinator making $1.4 million to a tight ends coach making $1.4 million, which is that can happen. I mean, it's odd though.
Like Vince Marrow makes that kind of money as a tight end, but he's the main recruiter and he's the highest paid assistant coach in college football. That's not a coordinator.
Foley, I don't have a great read on that situation. He's obviously, I would say, on a hot seat, but Rule may not want to make a move, and if he were to make a move, it might just be to slide him down on the staff. Now there's 20 guys, 20
Well, and he's
plus
already
guys.
not on the road recruiting because you could only designate 10 people on the road, and they put Mosey on the road. They put Phil Simpson on the road. They put Keith Williams on the road. So some of these other guys that were on the road the year before, some of these newer recruiting hires they've made, those guys are on the road now.
See, I wonder sometimes, I think about this stuff. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but here's the question. Could you hire another special teams coordinator and just demote Foley?
Well, Foley's led the recruiting on McAllister and Gallick. So,
no, but I'm going to ask you the question again. Could you do that? Could you just hire another special teams coordinator and demote Foley, keep him on the staff?
I don't think most people even worry about the special teams coordinator. Like, I don't even think the way you're talking about it, like if you were just from why are we talking? Like, they've got Brett Maher here. They've got a new kicker and punter. I don't know what that would do.
But we've actually had a lot of questions about Foley if he'll stick around.
Yeah.
People are
it's not
concerned about him.
It's not a crazy question. I mean, they were really at times.
No, they had
Sean. At times they really struggled.
Is that coaching or is it personnel? That's the debate.
Yeah, maybe it'll all just be easier if they have a really reliable long snapper. Then all the problems are less intense.
Because
it's just long snapping though.
Yeah.
When Sam Foltz and Pat Smith were kicking and punting, and Maher and Henry, everything looked a lot better. All right, final question.
Okay, last question. What are your food recommendations for New York?
We obviously have to get pizza, but we are going to try, we're going to be able to do one kind of big meal that we'll have time for. And we've got Peter Luger Steakhouse circled down, and it's one of the oldest steakhouses in the country.
That sounds wonderful.
It's a very simple menu of what they do. Extremely hard place to get into. We have to go there. It's like a 4:15 dinner reservation.
It's okay.
It was either that or 9 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, Sipple's in bed by 9.
Yeah. 9 o'clock's too late.
But we're gonna.
I just said that on the air.
It's a cash only place too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cash only.
I think you can pay with a debit card though, so you'd be in luck.
Hey, listen, that seems. Where is that, by the way?
It's in Brooklyn.
It's in Brooklyn. Okay.
So we're going to attempt to eat at Peter Luger Steakhouse.
And now the pizza discussion I got called out on. I said I wanted some deep dish pizza, and people said simple don't get deep dish in New York.
No, it's like the thinner like foldable crust pizza.
I know that deep dish is like a Detroit and Chicago thing, but I thought it was New York.
No.
So much for that.
It's like
I like
opposite
thin
of
crust
deep
pizza
dish.
though, so I'm good.
Like Lazari's Pizza in Lincoln is New York style pizza.
I like thin crust, so I'm good.
Italian food too. I mean, there's obviously tons and tons of great Italian food options. So I just want to kind of get a lay of the land of our surroundings where we're staying.
Yeah, we better get a lay of the land of our surroundings.
We're not riding the subways.
We'll get a lay of the land.
All right. Well, it should be a fun trip. Abby, it's great to have you back. Did you have any good meals in Louisville?
Oh, great question.
Did you?
Did I? I don't know. I went to some random places. I ate in the hotel a couple of times because I was really busy.
What did you like most about Louisville?
What did I like most? The games. Does that count?
Yeah, it counts.
That first game, Louisville Pitt, was just crazy to me because I just couldn't believe that Pitt would lose.
So you didn't go to Churchill Downs?
I did not.
Did you have any bourbon?
No, I did not.
You're not like Robin and Sean.
I know. I just
Amy Just I know goes all in on the bourbon. I mean, other media people. I didn't know if you tried one sniff of bourbon.
The first time I went, I did, and it was pretty good. But it's not really. I'm not a connoisseur. I'm not like a huge alcohol person. I like it, but I don't like.
I get you.
Go hardcore.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, Abby, we're glad you're back, and you did a great job in Louisville.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, and thanks again to Abby Barmore for the mailbag here. When we come back, we're going to talk Big Ten Bowl games. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett will rejoin us in New York. But thank you again to our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you to help all the loved ones in your life with simple day-to-day tasks. Call them at 402-205-2233. Learn more about their offerings. It's never too early to call them. You might have questions. You might need their help in the future. Call them again at 402-205-2233. We're also brought to you by Homefield Apparel. Still time if you're, get a later Christmas gift for somebody, buy something for yourself, but it's basketball season. You always want to buy new football gear. Well, Homefield Apparel has the custom threads, the things that you don't necessarily see at your favorite box store. Check them out on their website at homefieldapparel.com. Learn more about all the different teams and gears they offer. They are continuing to grow, adding more and more products by the day. We're going to give you 15% off of Homefield Apparel. Use the promo code Husker24. That's promo code Husker24 at homefieldapparel.com. Thank you to Homefield Apparel for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the Big Ten Bowl games discussions because we had three teams in the playoffs. Notre Dame beat Indiana 27-17, but the score obviously wasn't as close as that looked. Penn State hammered SMU 38-10, and then Ohio State hammered Tennessee 42-17. I mean, I'm not surprised about Penn State. I expected that one.
Did you?
I thought Indiana would play better than they did. They played like they didn't belong. And
Indiana started showing vulnerability to me down the stretch against Michigan, I thought. I didn't think Curtis Rourke looked as confident down the stretch. Yeah, they lost something on their fastball.
And then obviously the Ohio State game.
Oh,
I mean, there were a lot of people that really thought that was going to be the end for Ryan Day. If Tennessee went in there and won, and there was 30,000 ball fans in that stadium, but man, he flipped the script.
Well, what happens in football a lot is if you get a team that has a chip on its shoulder, and that team has as much talent as Ohio State, their level of danger escalates dramatically. And they played with the chip on their shoulder. The defense was really good in that game. I mean, Sean, they cracked Imaliva's helmet at one point. I mean, it was like a Mahomes moment.
I think they could win the whole thing.
They played like that the other day.
Because remember, Georgia doesn't have a quarterback anymore.
Right. The matchup against Oregon obviously is probably they're favored against Oregon, Sean. There's a 2.5-point favorite the last I checked. Ohio, talk about a raw deal. Oregon, the number 1 seed, draws Ohio State in the second round.
That's damn near a 1-2 game.
Right. Ohio State's favored by 2.5 the last I checked. And I told you, I texted you during the Ohio State Tennessee game. Ohio State looks like a team that's primed to win it all. I mean, that's how they play.
All right, let's get into now what's next. Thursday night, Rutgers at Kansas State. I like Kansas State in that game. I just don't know if Rutgers has enough, and I
totally agree.
I don't think the Wildcats have any opt-outs. All their guys are playing. Manungai, I believe, is playing for Rutgers.
Rutgers came out of a funk, though. I mean, they went into a funk during the middle part of the season and then came out of it.
I mean, they beat Minnesota late. They had some moments and they beat Michigan State late too.
I really like Kansas State though
in that matchup. Then you've got USC A&M on a Friday night. And that's one of those kind of like who's opted out type games. You don't really have a good feel.
Yeah. Hard to know.
It's a late night game in Las Vegas. I don't know. I can see USC, but they've had some good players go in the portal.
Hard to read it.
Obviously, Boston College, Nebraska. Huskers a slight favorite in that one. Iowa, Missouri. I mean, with Iowa in their situation right now, in terms of their offense.
Can Iowa put together enough offense without Caleb Johnson? How? How did they do it? How? In fact, Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports, who's comes on a lot of radio shows throughout the country, he picked Iowa to win the game, and I was just startled by it. Because where do they come up with enough offense to beat Missouri?
I mean, Iowa will be lucky to score 17 points.
That can't be enough.
But Missouri, you just don't know. And then Alabama, Michigan, that's another one of those opt-out games where you don't really have a great read. Alabama, though, should win this game.
I would think so, because again, Michigan, where can they put together 17 points against Alabama?
That's why if I was Michigan, I don't know why they were so fired up to go to Tampa. Like if I was Michigan, I would have loved to go to New York and play Boston College and just kind of have a game that you're going to win.
That's your want to go to warmer climates.
That's me, yeah. But no, I don't know. I mean, if you knew your team wasn't going to be loaded, do you want to play Alabama?
No.
So we'll see how that goes, because that could get ugly for Michigan. It could. Louisville, Washington.
If you can break down Washington, Louisville, you're a lot better man than
I like Jeff Brom. I think Louisville wins that game.
Yeah, I have no idea.
They're 8-4.
I'll tell you this one. I can break down the next one. South Carolina, if there's a team that belongs in a playoff more than South Carolina, I don't know what it is. South Carolina is the best non-playoff team out there. They'll beat Illinois handily.
You think okay? And Illinois has all their guys playing, so we'll see.
Handily.
If they want to play the game, that's the thing. How motivated are they going to be?
It's a good point.
Illinois is going to Bielema's probably taking this trip real serious.
Well, we'll see.
Why wouldn't he?
They will. Well, South Carolina's a better team. They're a better team.
All right, now we're in the playoff. Penn State, Boise. I think Penn State's defense will stifle the running game of Boise.
They did not stifle Oregon's running game to be.
Yeah, but Penn State or Boise does not have the O-line of Oregon. Do they?
I don't know.
No, they don't. I mean,
babe, I don't know.
Well, Boise State did play Oregon earlier.
I just was struck by Oregon running the ball so well against Penn
that's
State.
A tough trip, though, for Penn State fans to go all the way from Happy Valley now to Arizona. Expensive. They'll go. I mean, Boise is going to have a lot of fans there. That's a home game for Boise, more or less. And then Ohio State, Oregon in the Rose Bowl. And it's kind of fitting. The Rose Bowl is basically, if the two leagues still existed, that would have been the Rose Bowl.
What a game.
Or it could have been the Rose Bowl.
What a scene that's going to be. I mean, I thought Ohio State, Tennessee was can't miss TV, and it was great TV. I know what you're going to say. Oh, the game was a dud. Kind of a dud, but the scene was amazing. And that scene at the Rose Bowl, whew, I mean, that's gotta be beautiful.
And then be beautiful. Then lastly, Minnesota, Virginia Tech, and I'm going Minnesota because PJ Fleck takes bowl games seriously. They'll come out and
yep.
I mean, last year they won the game with a quarterback that they called back to the team.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they're coming off a huge win against Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin's terrible. I get it, but that's a rivalry game. Minnesota went into Madison and dominated. And the feeling I bet the feeling in the Minnesota program right now is great.
And that's in Charlotte. The winning coach gets dumped in mayonnaise.
Yeah. One of the most overrated things in college football. It's kind of dumb.
No, I mean, I think that actually probably put some coaches where they don't want to play in that game.
I don't know about that.
Do you think Matt Rule would get dumped in mayonnaise?
I don't know. It's
in the stadium that he got fired at as an NFL head coach.
You don't want to go take a shower immediately.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. I like mayo though, so it wouldn't totally bother me.
Gross. I don't like mayo. I
love
that.
Mayo.
And did you know Wisconsin was given the opportunity to possibly go to the Independence Bowl as a 5-7, and they evidently turned it down?
Really?
Well, they had so many guys go in the portal.
Kind of a Nebraska thing. Don't get me started.
Well,
Merry Christmas.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to New York with Steve Sipple.
Are you? I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I'm kind of looking forward to
We get in at midnight on Christmas night, so we'll land late, and then we'll get right to work on Thursday.
We're catching a break on the weather.
Yeah, it's showing rain now. It's in the 40s now for the game.
40s.
Low 40s.
That's very... You could get low 12s, I mean, so I'll take 40.
All right. Well,
showing rain.
Yep. And we're going to be live in New York twice. We're going to do a pregame show Friday night with Zipline at the Brazen Tavern right on 44th Street in Manhattan, the official pregame party for Huskers. And then we're going to be doing HuskerOnline postgame live as well from New York. So you'll get us live at least twice. in New York, once on Friday, once on Saturday. Should be a fun trip out in the Big Apple. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan, wishing you all a happy holidays. Thanks again for joining us this week on Husker Online.